Cockpit head protection could be introduced in Formula One following a meeting of the sports rulemakers in Geneva yesterday. The issue has been debated for a while and has gathered pace since Justin Wilson was killed by flying debris in an IndyCar race last August. We understand the F1 Commission also discussed a revamp of the current qualifying format amongst a number of proposed reforms. We're expecting further details to be released this morning and we'll be live to Barcelona, where the teams are testing. It's day 3 of pre-season testing. Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button are back in the car today. Let's go live to Rachel Brooks, who's at the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. Very good morning to you, Rachel. There's been news overnight of possible changes to Formula One. What can you tell us?
Yes, Alex, it was a meeting yesterday of the F1 Commission and the strategy group and the promoters of the sport as well, and some decisions were made. We've been waiting to hear of some news from this, and it's reports at the moment. We're waiting to get the official confirmation, which we understand is going to come out later this morning. But there is a suggestion of a change to the qualifying format. Now, I'm going to bring in Ted Kravitz here from Sky Sports F1 because I want to talk this through with Ted. At the moment, we have an hour-long session. We have 18 minutes, 12 minutes and 10 minutes. We lose the first 6, we lose another 6, we lose 10 in the final top 10 shootout. It's going to change. I'm going to run through the change and then I want you to tell me how this is going to make things different, if that's all right. We're going to have still an hour-long session. It's going to be split into 3 segments as it is at the moment. The first session will be 16 minutes. After 7 minutes, one car will drop out every 90 seconds. The slowest car will drop out every 90 seconds until the end of that session. There'll then be a second session, and that is going to be 15 minutes. After 6 minutes, the slowest car will drop out every 90 seconds. And then we get down to the final qualifying session, which is Q3 as it will still be called, and as it was before. It's 14 minutes long. And 5 minutes is the cut-off. Then a car will drop out every 90 seconds until we have the 2 left fighting it out for pole with 90 seconds remaining. Ted, is this going to make things more interesting? What's the jeopardy involved? Is there more jeopardy involved for the drivers and the teams?
Before I answer that, Rachel, the response that we're getting from the viewers and the fans is that qualifying wasn't broken, so why fix it? And the message we're also getting from our viewers and from the fans here at the circuit is that what the complication of this new system shows, and fiddling about on the edges with gimmickry, shows that Formula One bosses are fundamentally out of touch with what the real fans want, which is good, close racing on a Sunday. And no gimmicks, and nothing like this that's too complicated, like the new tyre rules, for the armchair fan to understand. You were just going through it then. I tuned out after 30 seconds. I mean, as you say, yes, I mean, all right, it's going to be interesting, and I suppose it's going to jumble up the grids, which is what it's intended to do. But that's no good if then when you go racing, the aerodynamics and the front wings are so complicated that if anybody following anybody else on track means that they lose 50% of their downforce and can't get close enough to overtake and make a good race. And that is fundamentally what is wrong with Formula One racing at the moment, is that Lewis Hamilton says it, the drivers say it, they all say it. When you get close behind another car, you lose all your downforce and you can't get in a position where you can overtake. And that's why we sometimes get bad races. Sometimes we don't get bad races because things happen and circuits mean that you can overtake. But a lot of the time we do, and that puts people off. And there seems to be an inability or an unwillingness amongst the Formula One establishment and the team bosses to understand that what people actually want, what the fans want, is close racing.
We had the situation last year.
Sorry, I didn't answer your question, did I?
But it could provide more jeopardy. There could be a situation, that 90 seconds, you've got to get into that 90 seconds. Lewis Hamilton's just coming down the paddock behind us, actually, just taking Roscoe for a walk. He's on his hoverboard. They're the one-wheeled ones that are actually quite hard to use, but he seems to have mastered it, and it's one way to take the dog for a walk. He's not in the car this morning. Mercedes have changed their plans, and they're giving the drivers a bit of a rest because they've been able to do so much mileage in the W07. I would say it's lazy, but I know how hard these drivers work and how fit they have.
Sorry, Rachel, we don't really need to talk about anything else, do we? That is the shot of the test, right there. Well, I don't need to talk about qualifying. I don't need to get on my hobby horse telling you what the fans think about the new changes. Shot of the test, right there.
Well, what I will say, though, is we're also hearing that there could be some changes.
He doesn't seem too ill, actually. He was meant to be in the car.
They've changed it because they're doing so much mileage at the moment. They're giving them both a half day so that they're fit and raring to go for Australia. That's the plan at the moment anyway, and that's why he's got this morning off to take his dog for it's not even a walk really, is it? It's a bit of a canter behind the hoverboard, a spin. We're also hearing though that they may be making changes to the power unit supply and how that happens. Now we have no more details than that at the moment. We know they wanted to supply cheaper engines to the customer teams last year, and that didn't go through because of opposition from Ferrari and Mercedes. How do we make the races better then? What's your solution?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. These are all discussions that are coming out. Nothing's changed in the rules as yet. It looks like we will get a change to the qualifying format, which will jumble up the grids, which might make things more interesting. There's an ongoing power battle between the big manufacturers, Mercedes and Ferrari, against Bernie Ecclestone. It all centres around the engines. Bernie still doesn't like the engines, although they are now, louder than they were. But that power battle will continue. It's all about providing and concreting affordable engines to the customer teams, which it looks like we're getting. Bernie is threatening that if the manufacturers don't do what he says, he'll get rid of Formula One completely. He'll instead establish GP1 and go back to the naturally aspirated V8 engines. I don't think that will happen, but anyway, and we'll see. I can't even remember what your question was in the first one. Lewis spinning up there with his dog is just completely...
It has thrown you, hasn't it, this morning?
Yeah.
We will talk to the drivers and team principals later on about these proposals. They need to be ratified on March the 4th. But there is one thing that they have also discussed, and that is the introduction of a halo around the... It's coming from behind the driver's head that will sweep forward to a central narrow column right in front of the driver's eye. We're yet to ask them about how it affects their vision. We know Mercedes have been trialling this for a year in their simulator, and the drivers have had experience of it. The teams were tasked with coming up with a solution. They want to protect the drivers' heads. We've seen this year in the new regulations that the sides of the cockpit have been raised to help with the protection of the drivers' heads, and this new system will come in 2017 if it gets ratified on March the 4th at the World Motorsport Council. But we know that a lot of people, pretty much everyone involved, is going to vote for this now, so that we don't have the terrible tragedies that we've had of the last couple of years with the likes of Justin Wilson and Jules Bianchi. So that is something else being brought in that hopefully will be ratified on March the 4th, and we'll get final confirmation. But in terms of the other things discussed yesterday, we're waiting for the official press release from the FIA, and we'll bring it to you as soon as we get it.
Thank you very much, Rachel. And Lewis's dog. Fascinating stuff. I can only say that if that was me with my dogs, it would end badly. Thanks very much, Rachel.
Day 3 of pre-season testing in Barcelona. Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button back in the car today. Let's go live to Rachel Brooks at the Circuit de Catalunya. Morning, Rachel.
Morning, Rob. Yes, Lewis taking the morning off this morning, though. They've put Nico Rosberg back in the car. Mercedes doing so many miles here. They want to keep their drivers fresh, so giving them half a day today and half a day tomorrow each. In the car at the moment, or on the top of the timesheets, I should say, is Nico Hülkenberg in the Force India. Yesterday, Sergio Perez, when he put the Super Softs on in that Force India, was actually quicker than Sebastian Vettel on the same tyres. So maybe some improvements there for Force India, or maybe just doing very, very low fuel run. We'll have to wait and find out for that. But I'm joined right now by Jolyon Palmer, who has spent a couple of days in the car. Unfortunately, Jolyon, the Renault did have issues, so you only had sort of 37 and 49 laps or something like that. Not as many as you would like, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it was a couple of short days, but still, it was a nice moment to be rolling out with the new car, new team coming back. It was frustrating because I would love to do a lot more laps, but yeah, yesterday was a more positive day. At least managed to get some sensible running in the morning. It was all going to plan, and then we had an engine issue in the afternoon, straight after lunch, and that was it for the day. So it's frustrating, but now I'm just sat back for 2 days and hoping to watch Kevin do a lot more laps and get some more data.
You're a rookie this year, but it's not really fair to call you a rookie, is it, for everyone? Because you had so many Friday practices last year. Do you feel as though you're more advanced than maybe some of the others coming in your position?
I feel like a rookie plus. I think I've done a lot of mileage last year. I know the team quite well already. Obviously, it's Renault, but it's the guys are the same from Lotus. So yeah, I feel I'm an experienced rookie, I guess, and I'm ready to perform straight away. So need some more laps. We've got next week as well, so I need to really try and crack on with a good programme and get myself in good shape for Melbourne. But yeah, I think I'm not going to use being a rookie as an excuse. I want to crack on and don't hold anything back straight away.
Doesn't get much more of a motorsport family than yours, does it? And in terms of your path to here, it's been a long time coming. We've seen you around the paddock an awful lot. I know in Texas last year was when you were announced. What's the feeling like at the moment? We're less than a month away now from the very first race.
I'm really excited. Obviously, this is a dream come true. If I take a step back and think, I'm about to start Formula One season. It's incredible. So, yeah, I mean, frustrating because I've not done 2 full days in the car, but I can't complain. I'm here as a rookie about to start my first Formula One season with a Renault team that's got high expectations in the long term at least. So yeah, I'm unbelievably excited. Working flat out ever since well, since the turn of the year at least. Been up in the factory a lot and working really hard with the engineers, and yeah, ready to go in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, it's great to have another British driver on the grid. I think Silverstone's going to be an incredible event for you this year. We'll look forward to seeing you, though, back in the car at the next test next week. And thanks for joining us this morning.
Pleasure.
Jolyon Palmer, Renault driver, and as I say, rookie, but he got all those Friday runs last year, so we have seen him in action in last year's Lotus, this year with the Renault team. And yes, had his 2 days running here. He'll be back in the car next week. But as we speak at the moment, Nico Hülkenberg leading the way out on track. Kimi Räikkönen not appeared yet, but some fuel pickup issues for Ferrari. They say they're trying to get him out before lunch today.
Now, Australia.
Now, to day 3 of pre-season testing in Barcelona, and significant changes have been proposed for Formula One qualifying. Right, let's go live to Rachel Brooks at the Circuit de Catalunya. Afternoon to you, Rachel. So what's going to change?
Well, we heard reports of the changes that they'd been put forward at yesterday's strategy meeting, where 6 members of the paddock here, 6 teams from the paddock, the sports promoters and the governing body all got together to try and look at the future of the sport, to make it more exciting, to try and make faster cars. They had all sorts of reasons on the table, and they've released a press release, and they've said that all these efforts are a series of measures designed to deliver a faster, more spectacular FIA World Championship. 2 of those ideas are coming in this year for 2016. They were unanimous, so they're going through and they will be implemented from the start of the season. First race in Australia on March the 20th, of course, and that is changes to qualifying. At the moment, we have 1 hour, we have 18 minutes, followed by 12 minutes, followed by 10 minutes, and the slowest cars at the back of that grid drop out at the end of that session. This time, it's a bit like musical chairs, if you like. You still have the 3 sessions. The first one is 16 minutes. After 7 minutes, the slowest driver is eliminated every 90 seconds. So it'll be 1 at a time every 90 seconds. The second session will be 15 minutes. 6 minutes is the cut-off there, and after that, the slowest driver will be eliminated every 90 seconds. And the same for the third session, 14 minutes long, and 5 minutes is the cut-off there. Then every slowest driver will be eliminated every 90 seconds. That'll leave 2 drivers left for the final 90 seconds to battle it out for pole position. We've also heard now that going through for 2016 is an idea to have a Driver of the Day award. This will start in Australia, and it will be voted for by fans online, so you need to keep an eye out just as to how you do that during the race. Vote for your Driver of the Day, and they will be awarded during the post-race presentation that trophy, which is great because we saw some fantastic performances last year from drivers who didn't make it onto the podium. The likes of Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz, particularly coming through from the back of the field when they'd had technical problems. So it'd be good to see that, and the fans are able to get involved as well. For 2017, they've been given an extension to the power unit discussions that have been going on. They should have been handing those in by the 29th of February. They've been given now until the 30th of April, the teams, to come up with a solution to the power unit supply. There was an option to supply a cheaper engine for some of the customer teams. The likes of Ferrari and Mercedes vetoed that and didn't want that to go through. So they're going to get around the table again, the teams, and try and decide on something for 2017. But McLaren did put a proposal forward, we're hearing, that will make the cars around 3 seconds faster. And that is something that the sport wants to see, that the governing body wants to see. They're talking about some new bodywork regulations that will be implemented to create more exciting cars, deliver additional downforce to increase speeds. And they were hoping for about 6 seconds faster. They're saying now it's more likely to be 3, and that'll suit the tyre manufacturers as well. And also cockpit protection. We've been hearing about this for a while now. The cockpit protection will be brought in for 2017. At the moment, the favoured option is the Halo concept. 2 struts from behind the driver's head that meet in the middle in front of the driver's head with a narrow upright. That's the favoured at the moment, but they are looking at all options right now, and they will come up with those by April the 30th. But the 2 measures for 2016 will go through, and they will be ratified at the World Motorsport Council on March the 4th. We've just spoken to Nico Rosberg. Ted Kravitz caught him for a word on the proposed changes.
We always need to rethink the sports in general, and come up with some new ideas and some new improvements, and so that's fine.
But final one from me, is it fine that actually they're not addressing what seems to be the issue when you're stuck behind another car, as Lewis was stuck behind you in a few races at the end of last year. You've been stuck behind him and have been unable to overtake because you lose all the aero, but no one's addressing that.
That is a problem that has always been there in F1, you know, since aerodynamics have come into the sport, which is probably 35 years ago, 40 years ago. And it's not really worse now than it's been before, you know, it's just a general issue. And it hasn't been addressed in the last 40 years, or it has in some way, but it's, you know, not fundamentally. So it's not that straightforward, because it would mean a huge, complete change of the way the sport is in general, in the cars, you know, so... But anyway, even that, of course, needs to be looked at, for sure, because it is something that's not ideal, you know, and maybe in the future at some point we can come up with some new improvements for that.
Well, the sport embracing fan interaction in terms of driver of the day, but feedback so far from the fans has been that qualifying didn't need changing. It has been changed for 2016. They'll hope for more changes for the racing from 2017 onwards.
All right, Rachel, thank you.
Interesting talking point in Formula One. Nico Rosberg has welcomed proposed changes to qualifying. Now, the change still has to be ratified, but it would see cars knocked out progressively in the 3 sessions. So Rosberg was driving the Mercedes W07 in this morning's session at pre-season testing in Barcelona. Managed the 3rd fastest time before handing over to Lewis Hamilton, who will drive this afternoon. Rosberg won the inaugural pole position trophy in 2014.
We always need to rethink the sports in general, yeah, and come up with some new ideas and some new improvements, and so that's fine.
Okay, but final one from me: is it fine that actually they're not addressing what seems to be the issue when you're stuck behind another car, as Lewis was stuck behind you in a few races at the end of last year? You've been stuck behind him and have been unable to overtake because you lose all the aero, but no one's addressing that.
That is a problem that has always been there in F1, you know, since aerodynamics have come into the sport, which is probably 35 years ago, 40 years ago. And it's not really worse now than it's been before, you know, it's just a general issue. And it hasn't been addressed in the last 40 years, or it has in some way, but it's, you know, not fundamentally. So it's not that straightforward, because it would mean a huge, complete change of the way the sport is in general, in the cars, you know, so... But anyway, even that, of course, needs to be looked at, for sure, because it is something that's not ideal, you know, and maybe in the future at some point we can come up with some new improvements for that.
Lewis Hamilton never shy to make a statement. Here he is on an electrical unicycle with his dog Coco, trying to keep up.
Oh, little legs.
Yeah, no, he's just going mad, isn't he, Coco? Lewis very, very relaxed, though. No activity yet at Ferrari. Kimi Raikkonen's car still in the garage with a fuel system fault. Had been going quite well in testing so far. The prancing horse, Force India, have it's impressive so far. So far, it is Nico Hülkenberg topping the timesheets, and he's completed 37 laps, and mileage is very important in testing. It's not just about who's posting the fastest time. Williams have been going quietly about their business so far. Felipe Massa with the 6th fastest time so far on medium tyres. The harder the compound, generally the slower the time. Rio Haryanto from Indonesia beginning his first day of testing for his new team Mana. So far it's been an encouraging start for them. They now have Mercedes engines. Their best A2 lap, 5 seconds quicker than they managed in qualifying last year. All the intrigue of testing. It's about a bit like eating chocolates in January. Looking at the timesheets, you know you shouldn't do it, but you do it anyway, and you try to read into it. Nevertheless, Sky Sports website's the place to be. All the Sky Sports app before the season starts on March the 18th, the Australian Grand Prix. Go check out the Sky Sports F1 channel as well.
You've got to think what qualifying's about. Is it about an hour's entertainment on Saturday, or is it about trying to make the race better on Sunday? And I think this new procedure is not going to affect Saturday, because there's nothing wrong with Saturday. In fact, arguably, it might even be a bit worse. But it might mix the grid up a little bit for Sunday, and therefore that's not a bad thing.
The new 2016 Formula One season will see a revised qualifying format in a bid to make the grid a little bit more unpredictable. Cars will be knocked out progressively during rather than at the end of each of the 3 sessions. 3 sessions still remain, but knockout will begin in Q1 after 7 minutes, with 6 more drivers eliminated at 90-second intervals. Another 7 drivers will be eliminated in Q2. The slowest driver knocked out after 6 minutes, leaving 8 cars to eventually progress to the 3rd part of qualifier. And Q3 will be 14 minutes, but the slowest of these 8 remaining drivers will be knocked out after 5 minutes, then continuing at 90-second intervals. And that will leave 2 cars in a final 1 minute 30 pole position shootout. And Nico Rosberg, for one, has welcomed these proposed changes to F1 qualifying.
we always need to rethink the sports in general, yeah, and come up with some new ideas and some new improvements, and so that's fine.
Kimi Räikkönen has had his fair share of bad luck at Ferrari, especially last year. Sebastian Vettel had 2 days of trouble-free running. The Finn, though, missed the morning session with a fuel system fault. He was, though, able to get out in the afternoon. Ferrari looking to make up for lost time, having topped the timesheets on the first 2 days. McLaren have been at least reliable, if not quick. Jenson Button on board the MP431 yesterday clocked up more than 50 laps before a hydraulic leak saw him stop in the pits. It's been a reliable day for Renault, and Kevin Magnussen enjoying being back in Formula One after being dropped by McLaren last season. Set the third fastest time, and he's done more than a race distance. Mileage very important, especially in the first test before the season starts. Force India have continued their impressive form. Nico Hülkenberg right now is at the top of the timesheets, 1 minute 23.1 on super soft tyres, closing in on Sebastian Vettel's fastest time set on the even quicker ultra soft tyres yesterday. And not only that, he's pretty good on one wheel, Lewis Hamilton. This is an electric unicycle, and that is Coco, his dog. Let's join Rachel Brooks, who's back at the Circuit de Catalunya.
Welcome back to the paddock here in Barcelona. Car's still out on track, but this man's already done his 2 days in the car. Valtteri Bottas joins me now. So Valtteri, Felipe's taken over the car now, but how are your feelings at the end of your 2 days?
Well, the initial feeling was very positive. I think we definitely have attacked well the problems we had last year with the car. It's been a good winter with consistent progress with the aero. Also the mechanical side, we still have plenty of items to test next week. So good feeling, but still no idea where we are compared to the others. So let's wait and see.
You're not alone in that, because we're all trying to look at the times, and Williams very much flying under the radar, as you do on a Friday at race weekends as well. But you must have a feeling or a sense of maybe where you are on the grid. I know it looks like Mercedes and Ferrari have maybe made a step, but in terms of where you are right now, do you know?
Well, you can always guess things. You can guess the fuel loads of the others, but yeah, there's no facts. So this is not the time of the year to get too excited or too disappointed. So we are really just focusing on now going through our test program, trying to learn as much as we can about our new car, and that's the target for this week. And I would think next week people are going to really start pushing more and see how quick their cars really are, and I'm sure we will as well.
Is that when it gets really fun for you?
Yeah, I think it will be much more interesting next week to see really how quick the car can go and push a bit more.
Got these new changes to qualifying that have been announced for this season, so you guys are going to have to get your heads around them pretty quickly. Do you think it will affect very much? We had elimination before, it's just a different type of elimination, I guess.
Yes, I heard about it, but to be honest, I don't know all the details yet, how it's going to really work. But yeah, if the change is going to happen, then it's going to happen, and we need to deal with it. Obviously, there will be new things for us to learn as a team, and I'm sure with that kind of system, people are going to make mistakes time to time. So we need to make sure we really know the system and how to get most out of it. And but as a driver, in the end, it's quite simple. We just need to drive always the quickest lap time we can do, and at the time it matters, and that's it.
It's almost more pressure on you, I guess, if that 90 seconds is coming up and you've messed up your lap. You could be in trouble.
Yeah, it's never good to mess your lap in qualifying. It's been always like that, but it will be maybe more critical, and but that's good. I don't mind.
What's your following like in Finland? We now have a Driver of the Day award voted for by fans online. Will you be trying to G up some support from them?
Sorry, can you repeat?
We've got a new Driver of the Day award been brought in. The fans are voting for it online. So what's your support like in Finland?
In Finland? Well, I think I have more supports in many other countries, to be honest. Of course, some support from Finland, which I'm really happy about. But yeah, hopefully I have plenty of fans this year supporting me and voting for me.
Thanks very much for joining us, Valtteri. Valtteri Bottas, who's done his 2 days here, but he'll be back in the car, of course, next week. Felipe Massa taking it round as we speak.
Well, Kimi Räikkönen has had his fair share of bad luck at Ferrari. Sebastian Vettel had 2 days of trouble-free running. The Finn missed the morning session with a fuel system fault. However, he was able to get out in the afternoon as Ferrari looked to make up for lost time. McLaren have been reliable, if not quick. Jenson Button on board the MP431 today. He clocked up over 50 laps before a hydraulic leak saw him stop in the pits, but racing director is encouraged by what he's seen.
We have obviously we had a difficult first year, but we are locked into the regulation as well, where we couldn't change everything we wanted. So at least Honda could correct and let's say fix the main issues. There is still a lot of work to do, you know, but at least now we have a change in the regulation which should allow us to correct it.
Well, it's been a reliable day for Renault and Kevin Magnussen. He's enjoying being back in Formula One after being dropped by McLaren. He set the third fastest time and has done more than a race distance. Force India have looked impressive on day 1 and 2. That continued today. Nico Hülkenberg tops the timesheets, having completed 37 laps. Williams have been quietly going about their business so far. Felipe Massa, a modest 9th quickest, but with over 100 laps. Sauber will unveil their new car next week, but still believed it was worthwhile driving last year's model. Felipe Massa's 6th fastest, closing in on a century of laps. Rio Haryanto from Indonesia is beginning his first day of testing for his new team, Manor. So far it's been an encouraging start for Manor, who now have Mercedes engines. Their best day 2 lap was 5 seconds quicker than they managed in qualifying last year. And take a look at this. Lewis Hamilton on a hoverboard with his dog Coco. I'm not sure Coco's enjoying that as much though. He's having to keep up.
Lewis is taking the lead. Get it?
0-0. See, I miss you, Jim.
Now, the new 2016 Formula One season will see a revised qualifying format in a bid to make the grid more unpredictable. Cars will be knocked out progressively during each of the 3 sessions. Rachel Brooks is at the Circuit de Catalunya. Rachel, good evening to you. What are the details of this, Rachel? What's the reaction been like from the paddock to the major changes in the sport?
Well, Jim, it's been interesting, really. Not an awful lot of excitement about it, if I'm perfectly honest. A lot of people saying, well, qualifying worked perfectly well and was probably one of the most exciting bits of the weekend as it was, so why change it? I mean, these changes that do come in mean maybe a little bit more jeopardy, probably for the midfield rather than the front runners. The back end of the field probably won't change that much, to be fair, either. It's because now, once they get to a certain cut-off point in each of the 3 sessions in qualifying, it will be 90 seconds. Every 90 seconds, a driver will be eliminated. That does add jeopardy because drivers do make mistakes in qualifying. They're under pressure to nail that quick lap. They do make mistakes, and if they miss out, they miss out. So we could get a little bit more mixed up grid in terms of the middle order. We're not expecting the front runners to change very much. I did speak to some of the drivers today about it. A lot of them not had a chance to even study these new rules yet and get their heads around it. But this was their reaction.
I'm sure with that kind of system, people are going to make mistakes time to time, so we need to make sure we really know the system and how to get most out of it. And but as a driver, in the end, it's quite simple. We just need to drive always the quickest lap time we can do, and at the time it matters, and that's it.
I don't know if I like or not, so I think I need to have a little bit of time to sit down, to understand the rules, to understand the change. The only thing I understand is that they want to create some chaos around. And this will happen for sure, you know. I'm sure it will happen some chaos that cars that maybe is qualifying more in the front, they will have problems and they need to start in the back. So this is something that can be interesting for you. I don't know, but if it's better or not, I don't know yet.
We always need to rethink the sports in general, yeah, and come up with some new ideas and some new improvements, and so that's fine.
So Rosberg saying to you there, Rachel, that they always need to rethink the sport in general. Quite pragmatic tonight. What can we read into today's Times then? What about them?
Well, it's interesting, Jim, there are only 8 days of pre-season testing this year before the first race in Australia. So some of the drivers saying to me today, we don't have enough time to sort of hide what we're doing. We have to go out there and push it and see what is really in our car. The likes of Williams, they always fly under the radar, and we don't find out what they've really got until much nearer to the time. Like some Mercedes and Ferrari, they definitely have a little bit more in their cars. We haven't seen the Mercedes go out on the very fast ultra-soft tyres yet, so that'll be interesting. But today on top of the timesheets was Nico Hülkenberg in the Force India. Now, Sergio Perez in the Force India put in a really good time yesterday that raised a few eyebrows. Today, Nico Hülkenberg topped the timesheets, and his time was set on the super soft tyres, a 1:23.110, and that's just 0.3 slower than Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari set on the very fast new ultra-soft tyres, the fastest tyres of the lot. So it was interesting to see those times, to see whether or not Force India have made a leap forward, or, as does happen at testing sometimes, teams run very low fuel. He only did 3 laps in that run, so I asked him afterwards if there was any fuel at all in the car when he set that run.
Yes, there was actually enough to do a few laps. No, I think a good positive day, good impressions, obviously learning about the car. I agree, probably we tested a bit more, tested our package out a bit more, what we were able to do than the competition today, but you know, it's not that much time till Melbourne, so we've got to get started and learn about the car. So very encouraging, positive and good day.
Well, the teams always like to see their name at the top of the timesheets, but we're waiting to see until next week, to the second test here, when teams really push it to get a much better idea of the grid. It does look like Mercedes and Ferrari out in front. Middle order looks really, really close, so it looks like it could be a really good battle there. And we're waiting to see just how Renault and Haas perform when they push and put their cars to the test, but brand new to the grid this year, of course. Well, we'll be back tomorrow to bring you updates. And Lewis Hamilton back in the car tomorrow, sharing the day with Nico Rosberg again, as well as around the rest of the grid. We'll see Alfonso Celis Jr. back in the Force India 2. We'll see what sort of lap time he can put in.
Richo, thank you. Well, the new 2016 Formula One season will see a revised qualifying format in a bid to make the grid more unpredictable. Cars will be knocked out progressively during each of the 3 sessions. The slowest car will be knocked out 7 minutes into Q1, with 6 more drivers then eliminated at 90-second intervals. Another 7 drivers will go in Q2. This time the slowest driver after 6 minutes will go, with 1 more going every 90 seconds until 8 cars are left to progress through to the 3rd qualifying. Q3 will be 14 minutes. The slowest of the 8 drivers will be out after 5 minutes, continuing at 90-second intervals. That will leave 2 cars left in a final 1.5-minute pole position shootout.
He likes to do things differently, and this year on track he'll have to. A proposed change to qualifying rules, with drivers eliminated at 90-second intervals, climaxing in a 2-car duel for pole, may mean Lewis Hamilton and co will have to work a bit harder and under more pressure.
We always need to rethink the sports in general, yeah, and come up with some new ideas and some new improvements, and so that's fine.
The only thing I understand is that they want to create some chaos around. And this will happen for sure, you know, I'm sure it will happen.
But who would fight for pole right now? If testing timesheets provoke more questions than answers, McLaren have hovered around its base, but had been reliable until Jenson Button's hydraulic leak. Plagued by issues since his Ferrari return, Kimi Raikkonen's track slot coincided with a fuel system problem. He still added to the evidence his team will be genuine contenders.
I think the first feeling is quite nice. Not the easiest day overall, but you know, I'm sure it will be good.
Could someone roar up the standings and do an F1 Leicester? Nico Hülkenberg's Day 3 benchmark hinted a maiden podium at least looks possible.
It does feel good. It does feel, you know, the right direction. But you know, we can't stop working. We need to keep improving and working hard. And we haven't done even 1 race yet. You know, we don't know really where we're going to be. But so far, so good.
At the start of his and Indonesia's F1 adventure, Manner's Rio Haryanto went out for his first spin and spun. But he ended the day with 78 laps and a respectable time. With aero parts to trial, the Mercedes pair hardly chased times. Is he impatient to be let off the leash? Craig Slater, Sky Sports.
Right, the 2 matches.